I sometimes feel bad because people think that I'm anti-American. I can tell you, we grew up in the 50s in Europe, the young people. Everything that was good came from America. I can assure you, the standing of America post Second World War was at the highest you could imagine. The Americans were the good ones, the Russians the evil ones. But the world has changed. The perception of the world has changed. And ordinary people around the world, they can see, especially through the social media, how the US began to intervene into other people's affairs.
The sun is setting on the west and quickly rising in the east and other regions of the world. The old glory days of the American and European empires are gradually coming to an end, and not much is being done by leaders and decision-makers to stop the rot that threatens to topple these once great empires from the inside out. In the US, expansionary fiscal policies, including significant government deficits, have raised concerns about long-term fiscal sustainability and potential recession risks. Both economies face structural shifts, such as aging populations and the need for technological innovation. The EU, in particular, has been criticized for insufficient investment in education and technology, leading to declining competitiveness compared to the US and China. Additionally, political turmoil in major EU economies has impeded the implementation of cohesive economic strategies, affecting the region's ability to respond effectively to internal and external economic pressures. In a recent interview with Commodity Culture, Marc Faber, the publisher of the Doom, Gloom, and Boom report, expresses deep pessimism about the trajectory of these once great empires, highlighting what went wrong and how decision-makers have failed to make required adjustments to get both economies back on track. Faber recalls the glory days of the 50s, particularly for the US economy, and how we damaged this pristine reputation by interfering in the policies of other nations, often with disastrous and diabolical consequences for those nations and a great burden to US taxpayers. The world-renowned economist also expresses doubts about President-elect Donald Trump's abilities to right all the wrongs and get the US economy back on track in 4 years, citing the extreme rot in the system and constant interference by the deep state. As we present clips from Faber's interview, please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications bell for more content like this. Thanks for watching and enjoy the video.
I mean, people have different views. I'm not very optimistic because, in particular, with the budget, most of the expenditures of the US are mandatory. In other words, they have to be met, like Social Security is very difficult to cut it, veterans benefits, Medicare, and so forth. To cut that is next to impossible. And how are you going to get re-elected if you go and tell your pensioners your pensions will be cut by 30%? So the scope actually to reduce expenditures, in my opinion, if they can cut a few $100 billion, that would be the maximum I would think is possible. He cannot do everything himself. I mean, there is Congress. And as you know, the Democrats are mostly against him, and some Republicans are also against him. So whether he can push all these measures through, I'm not sure. And the other observation I would like to make, I knew Larry Tisch relatively well, who was the head of and the founder of Lowe's Corporation. And his brother was Preston Tisch. In the 70s, Preston made the huge mistake that he wanted to do something for the community and clean up the American post office. After 1 year, he resigned. In the Greek saga Hercules, he has to clean up a stable, the dirt in a stable. And these are the tasks that Musk will be faced with to clean up the government and the unions and so forth. It's not going to be easy. I mean, I am very pessimistic about all these reforms. but let's say even Trump is successful at everything he does. The stock market has never been more pricey, more expensive in terms of valuations than it is now. And the global economy is not in a boom phase at all. The ordinary people around the world in general, they're faced with rising prices that are going up much more than what the bullshit office called BLS is publishing. This is a lie, what they're publishing about the CPI. The CPI, in other words, the cost of living increases are much higher than what they are publishing. Same in Europe. Now, ordinary people are struggling everywhere. Otherwise, how would you explain that the number of people who can't live decently, in other words, they live paycheck to paycheck, has increased to the highest level ever in the US? How would you explain that housing affordability in the US is at the lowest in history of the US? If everything is so great, why is it? Why are housing starts so low when the population is growing and when the prices are going up? The housing starts and housing sales are poor because people don't have the money to buy them. In my view, socialism has progressed in Europe even more than in the US. And part of the reason for this advancing socialist government is that the rich people are complacent and that they are not particularly interested, and they are also afraid. I mean, I know the leader of the AfD in Germany, the socialists on the left, they always talk about the AfD as if if they were kind of Nazi. They're just a little bit more to the right from the middle, whereas the left is not a little bit left. And for me, the AfD, and also in Switzerland, we have the SVP. In my opinion, they're not to the right enough. I mean, they're not far right. I would be personally, politically more to the right than they are. They also have social programs and so forth, which I would not subscribe to. Some of the policies that the Europeans have introduced, not only in Germany, but also in Spain and so forth, and France, are completely against any economic principle. And I always say, we live in societies. We have to decide what do we want, how do we want to structure our society. Our society meaning the social conditions of the people. In my opinion, the top priority is to increase the standards of living of ordinary people, of everybody. The current setup, if I look at the money printing and so forth, and the consequences of money printing, is that we have a society where more than 3/4 of society is being hurt by rising prices. Rising prices are commonly called inflation, but I'm careful in using the word inflation because inflation is misunderstood frequently. When prices go up for consumer goods like food and so forth, the people talk about inflation. When prices of homes go up and prices of stocks and bonds, they talk about the bull market. You understand? But the origin is both the same, money printing. And the money printing has, I mean, you should look at any statistic in any country. The money printing has created a class of people that is super rich and masses that are relatively poor.
According to Marc Faber, the de-dollarization trend spearheaded by the BRICS nations is actively reshaping the global economic and political landscape. Faber asserts that we are already transitioning into a new era where the US dollar is no longer the undisputed global reserve currency, but one among several dominant currencies in a multipolar world. Faber argues that phasing out the dollar-centric system is essential for creating a healthier and more balanced global order. In such a system, nations like Saudi Arabia could freely conduct trade with partners like China using their native currencies. Highlighting the signs of this shift, Faber points to China's remarkable economic transformation over the past few decades. Once consuming only 2% of the world's industrial commodities, China now accounts for approximately 50% as of 2023. The economist also emphasizes the growing economic influence of other BRICS members, including India and Brazil, which have steadily expanded their global presence. In Faber's view, these nations are well positioned to challenge the long-standing economic dominance of the United States. Faber believes investing in these emerging markets and commodities like gold and platinum presents a bigger opportunity for investors in the long run than investing in the ailing Western economy.
I've just written a report, and actually the first report I wrote about this very high valuation in the US and low valuation elsewhere was in July of this year. And I wrote about major turning point in asset markets, because I think that we are in a period of great turmoil, with some stocks reaching major lows from where a bull market will get underway, maybe not immediately, but let's say they're phasing out, and other stocks making major tops. And among these major tops would be the FANG stocks in America, the Magnificent Seven, semiconductor stocks, and so forth. And the basing stocks are more resource-oriented shares and emerging economies. The US has outperformed the rest of the world, and especially emerging economies, more than ever before. And the valuation differences are huge between the valuation of the US and valuations elsewhere.
I want to talk about platinum, because this is a metal that you mentioned in your report as well. You said it could be squeezed just like cocoa and the coffee market. Walk us through what you're seeing with the platinum market.
Historically, platinum has traded at the premium to gold and at the discount to gold. Now, the discount is essentially the largest it's ever been. The market is much smaller than the gold market and is controlled largely by South Africa and Russia. South Africa and Russia are not the closest friends of America, as you can imagine. And if they are being hurt by Western colonialist, neo-colonialist nations, I think they could easily squeeze the market. Easily. It's not a very large market. And that's why I always maintain coffee and cocoa are markets that can go ballistic because they're relatively narrow markets. So when the bull market starts in cocoa, last year was the year for cocoa, this year for coffee, next year, who knows? But I think given the fact that inflation adjusted platinum is now extremely low, say as low as it was in 1970, whereas gold and silver are relatively high. They're not extremely high, and the gold market actually, given that it's been so strong, attracts little speculation. This is something that it surprises me. Is also the gold market is up for the first time. Gold mining shares have not participated. They're underperforming. For the last 50 years, whenever the gold market went up, gold miners went up more percentage-wise, but not this time. And I keep on telling them, this is the beauty of investment markets. They're never the same. It changes. I have a position in physical gold and some physical silver and some physical platinum. But given that gold shares and mining stocks are so cheap, I think that there is an opportunity to buy some of them like an option. If the gold price goes up further and silver and platinum go up further, like in South Africa, you have Siboney gold. Siboney is mostly about platinum. They're losing money at the present time, but if the platinum price goes up, but I am not suggesting to your viewers and listeners to put all their money into gold mining stocks, you understand? Everything measured with moderate expectations. But I think they are cheap, very cheap. I also think, as I said, the Hong Kong shares, I think Indonesian shares are cheap. Malaysian shares are not particularly expensive. Brazilian shares, Colombian shares in Latin America are reasonably priced, Chile as well.
As of December 14th, 2024, platinum is trading at approximately $941 per troy ounce. The World Platinum Investment Council, WPIC, has forecasted a significant market deficit of 682,000 ounces for 2024. This deficit arises from a combination of constrained mining output and robust demand across various sectors. Platinum's industrial applications, particularly in automotive catalytic converters, continue to be a cornerstone of its value proposition. Hybrid vehicle sales have seen a marked increase, as they are a critical component of the global transition to cleaner energy. These vehicles rely on platinum to reduce harmful emissions, offsetting declines in demand from traditional gasoline engines. Additionally, platinum is playing an emerging role in hydrogen fuel cell technology, which could further bolster its industrial demand as the world pivots towards sustainable energy solutions. Investment demand for platinum has also gained momentum in 2024. This is partially driven by its undervalued status relative to other precious metals like gold and palladium. There is growing speculation that platinum could serve as a hedge against inflation and currency devaluation, especially as global monetary policies remain accommodative. Projections for the metal's price vary, with many analysts suggesting a potential rise to $1,100 to $1,200 by late 2025, and optimistic forecasts envisioning $2,200 per ounce by 2030. Do you think platinum is a valuable investment in 2024? Please share your thoughts, comments, and observations in the comments section below, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos on gold, silver, and the US economy. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.